So now it's time for our program. And Nick Kenny, could you, oh, he has his mouth full of his lunch. Good timing. Are you ready to come forward and make your introduction of our guest today? Program. Let me get it all set up.
Talking to me.
All right, so let's get this program set up. And after Nick does the introductions, we'd like to have a big Greeley Centennial Rotary warm welcome to Maestro Lowell Graham. Here it is.
That was a great opportunity for everyone to go at made themselves a second plate, but that's all right. A missed opportunity. You can get up as I'm speaking anyway. It's a privilege to be up here to have our new music director, Lowell Graham, present to you the Centennial Rotary for the very first time. Often you've heard me speak or Glenda speak about the GPO, so now you get to hear from the brains behind the artistic just masterpieces that we're going to present this year, and hopefully that you've experienced a little bit last year. Lowell Graham is only the GPO's 6th music director in our 111th year history. He's a native of Greeley, grew up on the east side of the tracks, an alum of UNC with 2 degrees, and has just had a miraculous career in the U.S. Air Force, teaching at Colby College, teaching at the University of Texas, El Paso, and finally returning back home to Greeley. He still lives in El Paso, but he's back so frequently to serve and to give back to this wonderful orchestra, to this incredibly supportive community. So I know you're as excited as I am, because I haven't seen this presentation yet, to hear from the music director of the Greeley Philharmonic Orchestra, Colonel Lowell Graham.
Thank you so much for being here. I truly am pleased to return to Greeley. This means the world to me. I was sharing with some friends last night, making an event, talking about just life in general and returning and giving back. And you know, I've had one of these most wonderful experiences in life of working everywhere in the world, and the opportunity to come back to Greeley. It's not for money, it's not for fame. I'm not looking for another job. I'm not trying to put this one on my resume. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with giving back and what it is that we do with music. We have a great season lined up. I'm not going to spend much time talking about that, but please take a look at this. These are really wonderful shows, and I encourage you to come to our concerts and be engaged, because it's about accessibility and access. Accessibility and access, because music is for everyone, just not a few people that may have advanced degrees. People love music. So I decided that I was going to take a deep dive today into something a little more unique as to the why of music. So when someone asks you why music and why the Greeley Philharmonic, maybe I can give you some tools in which to communicate and to talk. And so this may be death by PowerPoint here. So please hold on. And I'm going to try to move through most of this rather rapidly, because there's going to be a lot of data, a lot of information. But I hope it gives you some idea about why music, the big picture of this. So if I can figure this out, we're going to be in really good shape. I'm titling this Tools and Messages. What are we about? Simply, mentorship, legacy, and most importantly, relevance. Why? Why? So let's define this. What's mentorship? Well, it's simply the development in this relationship that we have with a more experienced mentor and someone that's less experienced, often referred to as protege, guided and protected by a more prominent person. Legacy. This is just simply about life. You know, life is not about things. Legacy is not about things. It's about influence. It's about living. It's about living in the past. It's about living in the present. Simply, I believe it's fundamental of who we are as human beings. It took a long time to try to figure out a definition of music, and there are many. There are many, but I put a think tank together when I was the commander conductor of the United States Air Force Band to come up with a simple definition that most everyone could understand. Not one of these long things, but simple. And try this one on for size. Music connects disparate peoples by establishing commonalities without the need for language on an emotional level. That's the biggie. On an emotional level, not an intellectual level. Well, what's all this about? Influence. Simply, the better the musical product or performance, the more influence that's projected. You know this every day. You got a great football team in the town. Well, guess what? That means everything's going great in humanities and art and psychology and mathematics, simply because they're seeing something in the performing arts somewhere else. But excellence equates to influence. Transference, just simply that. We transfer excellence that we see into something else. When we hear or see a performance in any way, shape, or form, we transfer that activity to something greater than what we are, something that's being accomplished in the entirety. Organization, an institution, a company, you name it. This is the biggie, emotion. Why are we in it? Because it matters. It matters. It's intrinsic. It's not a reward. This is just not a reward. Life is not a reward. We share emotion and the emotional experience. Why? Simply because we like it. It's okay to like something. It really is. Well, this is the biggie. We can never communicate that which we have never experienced ourselves. Think about that. We can talk a lot about a number of things, but if you've never experienced it, you don't know what it's about. Intellectually, you may consider what's going on, but experiencing it, we have to communicate it. We have to be part of it. And that's why it's called live performance. Excellence excites. Think about this. You come to any music performance, whether rock and roll, country, blues, chamber music, solo, recital, symphony orchestra, band concert, you name it, it excites. If it's done well, it also excites you the other way if it's not. But we're not going to talk about that side. Think about theater. Think about watching those great masters on stage, that every movement that they make, every gesture they make, every look that they share with an audience, you are engaged. Can't you just remember those great thespians? I mean, those words, even those Shakespearean words, to be or not to be. I mean, they'll send chills up your spine when that is done with passion and commitment. Have you ever just watched an artist like glass blower work? Man, I have no clue how they do that. But to make a marble, let alone a glass, but to make a marble with all that stuff in there, if that doesn't get your juices going, I just don't know what to say. But it evokes an emotional sense. Well, what matters? Just being a goal, well, we're going to make such and such and get caught up in this drive for working hard. That's not what matters, folks. We're not curing cancer in life. Well, maybe we are. Sorry about the nuts, the mixed nuts thing. I love that. That was great. But it's just not about goals. You have to smell the roses along the way, ladies and gentlemen. Take time. Take time to embrace life. How? How do we in the Greeley Philharmonic and how do we in the performing arts do this? It's simple. We project images of competency by the sonic, our sound, by the visual. What do you see when you see that orchestra on stage? In the spoken word, how does that communicate to you? Performances may or may not be ends in themselves, but if we use the power of what they project and transference of excellence, we have a much different view of the performing arts. I love this choice. Chinese word crisis, composed of two characters. One represents danger, one represents opportunity. Which side do you want to be on? Danger. Taking a look at something and saying, there's opportunity here to be had. The arts in general are trusted agents in the culture. They communicate non-verbally, and these are the values that we embrace, the positive values that I hope that we all embrace in the world. Well, what specifically do you do when you come to a concert by the Greeley Philharmonic Orchestra and you see them on stage? We project the values, your values, the values of Greeley, Colorado. When I was interviewing for this job, my president said, well, what are you going to bring to Greeley? Well, that's pretty easy to answer. When someone asks me, what is Greeley, Colorado? I ask this question. Take a look down at that. How many Maseratis do you see? How many Lamborghinis do you see? How many Ferraris do you see? How many Bugattis do you see? What do you see? You see pickups, dirty pickups. Why? Because these are working people. These are people of the land, people that are who they say they are. Those are the values that we project. We associate all these symbols that we have. We strengthen our reputation simply as a good neighbor, respected professional organization. That's not easy. That's not easy. That's tough juju, as I like to say. That's tough. Well, when you come to one of our concerts, I want you to enjoy it. It's not for a 3-hour credit. It's not that at all. I want you to have one of those experiences. You go, tonight was a great night, not just for the Greeley Philharmonic. No, that's part of it. Not for Lowell Creek. That's way not part of it. But for Greeley, Colorado, that's part of it. That's the big deal. Start thinking in those terms. We're in the performing arts. We're not in the let me think about it arts. Let me write you a paper about it arts. Let's kumbaya about it arts. Let's sashay about it arts. No, we're not. We're in the doing part. We can talk all day long, but the rubber has to meet the road. That's on the stage. What about emotion? When I was in the United States Air Force, I asked the Secretary of the Air Force through my boss, the Director of Public Affairs, could I do a search in all of the operating instructions and policy documents of the United States Air Force? Now, ladies and gentlemen, that's a lot of terabyte of information. That's a lot of terabyte. So I was able to get in and I did a search for this one word, emotion. And we are warriors. I'm proud to be one. Proud to represent you. I'm data-driven. I know what that's about. But people do not give the last full measure of devotion for data. They give it for something greater than that. Guess how many hits I got? All those multiple terabytes of information. Emotion. The right chain. None. None. So you have to ask yourself the question, why? Why is it that when you go see Iwo Jima, what were those brave souls doing? They were hoisting the flag, the symbol, the symbol. And it is about symbols. Here's some symbols of our culture. Flags, banners, shields, maces, rings, songs, anthems, uniforms, robes, medical scrubs, pledges. We saw pledges. What were you doing? You were establishing culture. You were developing culture. You know everything about me. Let me share quickly the power of music. You know everything about me with 3 sounds. 3. You know where I work. You know my core values. You know the color of the suit I wear. Maybe even the color of my bone. Boom, boom, boom. That's all it takes. Everything falls into place. The reality is, music equals smart. Smart equals influence. Never forget that. Smart equals influence. Music equals smart. I'm going to share a few quick experiences here. Keiko Matsui is a new age keyboard player. She was my guest in Washington, D.C. for 5 years in a row. And at the end of her 5th time, the Japanese embassy wanted to give a reception for Keiko. To show you the level of this, the ambassador of Japan to the United States was there. The Secretary of the Air Force is there. The Chief of Staff of the Air Force is there. That's the top dog. The Vice Chief of Staff of the Air Force is there. The Assistant Vice Chief of Staff of the Air Force is there. The Director of Public Affairs was there. My boss was there. I'm a colonel and I'm getting coffee. I am so far down the line. The military attachés were there. The CEO of Canon Corporation was there. The CFO of Canon Corporation was there. So many OOOs, I have no idea. So then I get through making a presentation to Cato, who's about this tall monster player. And the ambassador gets up. And this is important to understand what we all do. We mentor up and we mentor down about what it is that we do. And he said this. Now remember, music equals smart. He says, I play clarinet. Can I play clarinet in your band? I said, sir, anytime you want to play clarinet, just come. Then we'll have a seat for you and everything will be fine. Then he asked this question. Think about transfers, what we just did. If the United States Air Force band is this good, how good are your pilots? I looked over at the secretary, I looked at the chief, I looked at everybody, and they were smiling and I was smiling. I looked at him and said this, sir, I hope you never have to find out. And I looked at the secretary and went. So music does equal smart. And every boss that I have had, every boss, and I've had a lot of bosses, and I don't mean musical bosses, every one of them, save one, all the way through academia, 19 and a half years there, has been a musician. Think about that. So at this same thing, I was then talking to the Secretary of the Air Force. He said, yeah, we just got back from Corona. Now, Corona is where the 13, there are only 13 four-star generals in the United States Air Force. 13. And that's where they get together to chart the strategic future of the United States Air Force. And he said, yeah, they put their band together. They put their band together. And he said, they weren't very good. And I looked at him and I said, that's not the point. That's not the point. Now think about 13, at that time, there's 296,500 block people. What's the percentage and what are the odds that the 13, and we'll talk about why later. It's always about why. Gotta ask the question why. That all 13 would be active musicians. What's that percentage? It's 0.0. 0. This is a 1%. 0. 4, 6, something else. Just coincidence? Ladies and gentlemen, I think not. I absolutely think. Well, what do? I want you to think about AMP. Why do we do this? All of us. Why do we do this? We do this for autonomy, for ourselves. We want to direct our lives. We want to manage our lives. We want it to matter. We want our lives to matter. Mastery. What? The desire to do something better. Why do we as musicians keep practicing the same darn B flat major scale or A or whatever? Why? We know that there's a difference between knowing and doing. We want to master all of this. Lastly, purpose. Don't we want purpose in our lives? Don't we want to go away and say, it was worth it? It was really worth it, something bigger than ourselves. Every time I step on a stage with now the Greeley Philharmonic, we're creating magic. It's something bigger than ourselves. When you have 50 to wait till you hear what we're going to be doing in the future, maybe about 280, 300 people on stage. That's incredible. It's bigger than one person. And you will remember that emotional impact of that experience. What are our products? Well, now we're going to get a little bit to the data. Well, we're all about excellence. Organizational excellence. The Greeley Philharmonic organization has to be excellent, because if it's not excellent, we don't have anything on the top. The Greeley Philharmonic on that stage is like that little part of the top part of an ice cube. You know, we're on the top of the water level. Look what's below. Look what's below. You've got to have what's below so that thing can flow. In this case, the music excellence. Well, who's responsible for all of this? We are. It's not they should do it. I'm tired of the days. God, I hate days. They should do this. No. Take the bull by the horns. Sorry for you. Take the bull. It's yours, but we are responsible. So what are these 21st century skill sets? Of course, this is a little bit academic, and I apologize for some of that, but how do we think? Are we creative? How do we work? How do we communicate? Do we collaborate? If we don't collaborate on stage, we are dead. We don't do anything. Information communications, technology, information literacy, just straight literacy. It's important. It's important for our 20th century. And skills, good citizenship. Are you happy about a living? I am. You want to be a good citizen? I do. You want to make a difference? I do. Does the Greeley Philharmonic make a difference? It does. I love this quote. I love this quote. I've got to quote it. Music is not tangible. You can't eat it, drink it, or mate with it. It doesn't protect against rain, cold, wind, or cold. It doesn't vanquish predators or mend broken bones. And yet humans have always prized music. Well beyond prized, loved it. Think about the word love, ladies and gentlemen. That's not academic. We're in the spectrum of the emotional world. Just to talk a little bit about, we're going to get into this engineering side of the house a little bit about what they're looking for. National Science Board, in addition to analytical skills, which are provided by current education system, companies want engineers with passion, lifelong learning skills, system thinking, and ability to innovate, and ability to work in multicultural environments, an ability to understand the business context of engineering, interdisciplinary skills, communication skills, leadership skills, and an ability to what? Change. Equate that to the Greeley Philharmonic organization. Bingo. Georgia Tech's not a bad little school when it comes to engineering. Got a lot of friends there. The idea was that people who have other interests, think about that, other interests, tend to be able to communicate, tend to be more social, tend to ask for more help readily when they need help, and tend to think more horizontal. Wow. Think big picture, think context, think world, think us. Core skills. Studied music and associated skill sets necessary to be successful are implicit in the music profession. Now we're going to get to why these 13 four-star generals did what they do. I propose that there are 5 basic skill sets that when you are in music, whether you're a choir, whether you're an orchestra, band, or whatever, and these relate to corporations and what they search for. So we're not talking aesthetics, we're not talking touchy-feelies, but this is what we do all the time. We work independently. You have to be responsible for yourself. Wow. Obvious. Duh. 2, you got to learn to work as a team. You're in a section, guess what? You got to learn to work with somebody else. Learn to work in ensemble. 3, you got to look ahead and see where the problems are coming. Do you do that in triage? Planning, medicine, science, see what's coming at you? Oh, absolutely. 4, multitasking. Have you ever shown a piece of music to somebody that can't read music? It looks like Klingon to them. I mean, you've got lines, dots, dashes. You've got open note hits, closed note hits, stems, staffs. Then you have something else called a foreign language. And then you have all of that, and that's just to understand it. That's not to do it. And you got to do it all at the same time, and then translate that to whatever physical thing you're doing to make those things come to life. Boring, difficult, yes. That's what we do. I've never, ever had a perfect performance, and I've been at this a long time. More than a half a century. Sorry, I'm old. I still have some vinegar left in me, so I'm in here. But when we are on stage and someone makes a mistake, they fix it in real time. There's no do-overs, there's no timeout, there's no, well, let me write you bigger because I screwed up. We fix it so no one knows that there was a problem. Since I'm a former teacher, still a teacher, now we're going to recap. Working independently. So when you come to our concerts, let's not even talk about art. We're just talking about what you're going to see as a business person. We're working independently. These people are working strongly as a team, a well-tuned team. They're looking ahead to see what problems may happen. They're multitasking a ton of stuff. And they're solving the problems in real time. Do you think these four-star generals have those skill sets? They better have. We talk culture. I want you to think PCS, and this is not permanent change of station. This is something else. What is it that we promote in music? Well, we promote the culture, we continue the culture, and stabilize the culture. Now, I want you to think about all of those symbols with just what we saw in this last huge funeral of Queen Elizabeth. Symbols. Why did it promote the culture? Did all of this stabilize it? When you heard God save the Queen, did that do something to you? Boy, it had better, especially to the Brits, that had better do something. When you saw all of those musicians marching. Can you imagine what that ceremony would have been like without God Save the Queen and the marching bands? And without the uniforms? Without caissons? Symbols of culture. What solidifies? Music does. Usable tools. Well, I want to start this incentive flight down the road here with the Greeley Philharmonic. It's one thing to hear us in concert, it's another thing to sit in it. It's kind of like when I was at Tactical Air Command. We wanted to influence a news person or whatever else. What did we do? We took them out to the flight line. We made sure they weren't going to have a heart attack. We put them in a flight suit, put them in the backseat of the F-15. They went down the tarmac. They went vertical 50,000 feet, did some spins, came down. People got out about to throw up and said, "That's the best thing I've ever done in my life." Why? It's emotional. They've got to experience the visceral nature of that. We have to mentor up and down. That's why I'm talking to you. I want you to be able to talk to people about why. You're going to be my voice, another voice. Not just talk to your neighbor, talk to decision makers, and talk to people that are going to take our place in the future. Emotional involvement. Simply. So why the GPR music? I've used this quote many times. It allows a human being to take all of these dry, technically boring, but difficult techniques and use them to create emotion. That is the one thing science cannot duplicate. Humanism, feeling, emotion. Call it what you will. So that you will be human, so that you will recognize beauty, so that you'll be sensitive, so that you'll be closer to that infinite beyond this world, so that you'll have something to cling to, so that you'll have more love, compassion, gentleness, good. In short, more life. This is the end of this. Thank you for allowing me to spend some time with you today. If any of you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them best I can. But thank you also for allowing me to go into the deep dive as to what This is really about the why of we have music, the why of why we have a Greeley Philharmonic, the impact that it can make, just on us as people, certainly as culture. Any questions?
Where were you? I didn't see you on the film.
I was the guy in the black.
Oh.
With my back. I was the conductor.
Where was that done?
That was done in Constitution Hall. That's where we did all the historic series. So we would start our concerts the last week in January and go into March. And so we do them to our closest 2,000 friends for the weekend. And we have a great time. We had about 60 guests, and Wyoming was one of my last. I have to tell you a story about that. You know, for the rehearsal, she didn't come to the rehearsal. She had her stage manager come out to rehearsal, which was fun. And so she's going to go this way. So it came time for her entrance. And of course, you saw how big that is, and the people there. And of course, there was a mass of musicians on stage. And she walked on stage, she went. And afterwards, she says, I have never been that nervous ever walking on stage. And she says, usually I'm working with 8 to 10 people, you know, and here all of a sudden we've got this, this, and that. And so it was great. We have become very, very good friends. We retain our friendship. I have almost everybody with this. Yes, ma'am.
I know it's a fabulous year that you planned for this year. Just hit the highlights of the concerts, just because they are so amazing.
Happy to. This weekend is going to be very special because we are going to take the bullet pulpit and talk about things that we need to talk about as citizens, and that's homelessness, and that's the lack of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so this particular concert, we're doing a great handshake with the University of Northern Colorado here, which I'm thrilled to be able to have that handshake and work more closely with them. And to work that, we're going to be in their new hall in the Commons, which is really wonderful. So the first concert, or the first piece is going to be side by side with members of the University Orchestra with the Greeley Philharmonic, with their new interim music director of orchestral activities, Andres Jaime. And so he will, I've asked him if he would be kind enough to open up our whole 111th season. He's got it, so that's going to be great. Then we're going to go to a violin concerto written by Dylan Fixman. This concerto has a genesis. If you follow anything on social media, there's been a great voice by the Philharmonic organization about it. He liked to collect instruments. He bought this violin in a pawn shop, learned the backstory of Terry, who owned it. He was a professional musician who was homeless. And I'll let him tell the story because it would be more appropriate. But he was so moved by this, he wrote this violin concerto. His wife is going to be playing the concerto, and it's going to be on Terry's violin. So the association there is going to be really it's a very emotional on its part. After that, we're going to do a piece by Florence Price. This work is a symphony, her first symphony. It's difficult to be a composer to be a female to start with, but she was a Black female in the 1930s. And so this was premiered by the great Chicago Symphony Orchestra with Shaw in 1933. And so I believe this is a Colorado premiere. I'm not sure about that. I haven't been able to solidify that yet. But it's going to be one of the first performances of her symphony. It is melodic, it's gorgeous. As I was doing auditions earlier this week, some of the players that played it said, "Oh, I can't wait to play this because it's so beautiful." And so I share that with you. It will be a joyride for life. So that's the first concert. Our next concert, if you like Italy, I do. If you like anything Italian, I do. If you like that great Italian food, I do. It's going to be fun. So we're going to open up with Forza del Destino, which is the opera, which is just a barn. Following that, the Mendelssohn Italian Symphony. That's one of the first symphonies I heard as a young man. And it is so engaged me in my whole life. It is buoyant, it's beautiful, it's brilliant, it bubbles, it sparkles, it's just life. If you don't smile on it, something's wrong. Intermission, Cimarron, another great Rossini overture. And I know we're going to wind up with this piece that's Teutonic. It is Technicolor. It's a mammoth Pines of Rome. And so the 4 movements of that we're going to wind up with, obviously, Pines of the Appian Way, and it's got everything kitchen sink. So I'm looking forward to that. Following that, we're going to have our pops in December, and that's going to be really spectacular. Again, we're going to have the opportunity to share the stage with the Corral's Children's Chorus this year. I've also got a few things in my hip pocket that I'm going to present to the audience. One of my dear friends, who is a arranger, an orchestrator for movies, Ira Hershon, who's done orchestration for The Old Ridge, John Williams, etc. We've known each other a very long time. So I said, I want something special. Would you write something for us? Sure. So he's going to call this Classical Christmas. And he is one of those experts at taking harmonic structures and then that and then put a melody over it that we also. So you're going to hear Beethoven 5, The Rite of Spring, and everything else with Christmas songs, holiday songs. So it's going to be spectacular. So that's that. Our next concert at the end of January, the music of Ravel and Gershwin. What a great combination. Just a great combination. So we're going to be playing the Cuban Overture, Pavane for the Dead Princess. We're going to be winding up with Bolero. We hope that we're going to have dancers that will be joining us on stage. It's because it's a dance, it's a bolero. Who doesn't move with a bolero? So that's going to be fun. The Burroughs. Well, if you don't know the Burroughs, you should. When I was accepted to be the music director of this wonderful organization, they had programmed Nick and everybody else about half of the show, the season of the show. And so I'm trying to fly the airplane and build it at the same time. And they said, well, your first concert's going to be with the Burroughs. And it's a funk band. Okay, let me think about that. And so then I learned a little bit more about the Burroughs, and I have to tell you, these young men and women are serious about their craft. It's not a garage. They are serious about their craft. Now, they'll get out there and it goes down. And if you don't boogie with this, something dead or a doorknob, one of the two. It's amazing. So that was my first concert with the Burroughs and with the Greeley Philharmonic, and it's like, okay, I hope people aren't going to throw me out of the city. But it was not just a success; it was a huge success. Okay, wait. My lovely wife, who I adore and trust, she's that didn't go too well. Okay. So she said, "What do you have planned for the season?" She said, "No Burroughs." Yeah. Okay, Burroughs. So I called up and they said, okay, let's ask them if they'll join us again. And they were kind enough to join us. So that's going to be an awful lot of fun. Then we're going to join forces with UNC, with the concert choirs, all the choirs, and anybody else who can do this, with a great Carmina Burana. So we're going to do the music of Kodai and Karl Orff. We're going to open with the Concerto for Orchestra of Kodai with the Greeley Philharmonic. It's about 20 minutes. Take a quick intermission, and then we're going to bring everybody on planet Earth on stage, and away we go with the great Carmina Burana. It's going to be spectacular. This is Teutonic. If you want to have a little fun, go read the words. Hint. They're rather interesting, rather adult, and so you'll have some fun with that. And then, as will be our common practice, we'll wind up with music in the cinema, classical music in the cinema, because everybody knows this music. It's great music. Do you think a producer of a multi-million-dollar movie would put bad music in it? Not a chance. So we want to revisit that, put smiles on people's faces, and not only classical music that has been used in movies forever, but indigenous music that has been currently written with that's it. So this year we'll be doing Jurassic Park, which that will be one of the big works. But some of his other things that he's done will be on that show. So that is a long answer to a very short question, and I apologize for that. But it's a killer season. It's really, really good. So instead of saying, hey, I'm sorry I missed that one, I'm sorry I didn't make it to that show, how about just saying I'm making it to the show because I want to see your faces there. I want to engage you. I want to look at you. I want you to smile, and I want you to go away and say, this is what the movie was. I'm very proud of you folks. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak to you.
Thank you very much for your program today. Thank you very much for your service to not just to our country, but to our town here in Greeley. And as a thank you for your program today, this little comfort animal will be going to Northern Colorado Medical Center, and they'll use it where they need.
I needed a comfort factor too.
You need to hold it.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
So the tag says, this stuffed animal wants to help you when things are hard. Snuggle with it and you will feel a little love and caring. This comfort animal is given to you by Greeley Centennial Rotary in honor of Lowell Graham, who was our presenter on 9/22 of 2022. Greeley Centennial Rotary, and on the back is our 4-way test. So
That's very kind. Thank you all. That's very gracious.
you're welcome. Thank you very much.